Welcome to My Faith and Work Stories. My name is Josiah Leuenberger. I serve as the director of the Nashville Institute for Faith and Work. And our aim with this series is to be able to create an opportunity for encouragement to take place as members of our NIFW community share about how God has been present and provided and shown up in ways that have been a source of encouragement and provision in their own lives, and that would just be a source of encouragement to you in your own journey through faith and work. And today I am so grateful to welcome my friends Todd Foster and Eli Haney, who have some awesome stories to share with us about how God has made himself evident in clear and profound ways throughout a challenging season of their own faith and work journey during a time of transition in their career. So Todd and Eli, thank you for being here. I want to ask you, would you share with us a little bit about your background? What is it that you do for work, and how has God led you to where you are today?
Would you like me to go first?
Take it away.
All right. So I am a nurse practitioner by education and training, but what I actually do is work in a part of pharmaceuticals. It's called medical affairs, and we are a group of scientific experts that actually run the bridge through the clinical trial program all the way to a marketed product, and we serve as the field-based scientific experts for any drug that's out there. Most companies have them.
Fascinating. It's cool to hear how your career developed to that point, as you started off as a provider and now you're working in the research setting, I guess.
Yeah, we actually, it's really helpful because I have a view and experience from working with patients that I take that into the research and marketing field for pharmaceuticals, so that they understand things from the patient view. I think that's very important. Science is also important. That's been a love of mine, and it's why I got into being a nurse practitioner. So it marries both the patient and the science.
Fascinating. Thank you for explaining that. And Todd, how about you? What has your own journey looked like?
Sure. So for me, I was not a great high school student and didn't really want to go to college, but ended up in college and graduated and said, what do I want to do? I still never really knew, but found a position with an insurance company as a claims adjuster. And through that, a couple of years, realized that I enjoyed service. I enjoyed helping people. And so in insurance, that was property damage as well as healthcare. So then pivoted into the pharmaceutical industry back in 2004 and have evolved into the laboratory industry, but all the while dealing with patients, clients, physicians, providers, to serve them and improve their quality of healthcare and their lives.
Gotcha. I'm impressed. I had nightmares on a regular basis about science classes I needed to take in college, and look at the two of you. I want to ask you, would you share with us, I know that both of you went through seasons of job loss and discernment and waiting on the Lord, maybe even with a sense of anxiety about how He would provide at different points in your career journey. I would love to hear what that looked like, if you'd be willing to share, and how God just made Himself known to you throughout that season.
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I would say if I go back to how layoffs actually formed my career, for me to even get into the job that I'm in now, I was laid off as a nurse practitioner. And you become a bit unmoored at that point because this has been your education. You've worked so hard for this. But God put a role coming through our office of this medical science liaison. Those are the type of people I manage. That I was like, you talk science for a living. This is amazing. So started in that of looking for a job and was told no a lot. I am a professional no receiver these days. But it formed that with me to force a career change. And it's not comfortable, it hurts. I would say at that point, God probably wasn't the center of that journey. I think things have changed a lot since going through Gotham and being a part of NIFW. So fast forward now, 18 years later, to be laid off again. And to a point that at this point I'm directing other people, and it really was one of those things that it was happening at the same time as some very significant life experiences, and the timing just felt cruel. It really did. And so from there, I have to be honest, and I think that's what we want in these type of things, is I wasn't sure where God was in this journey. There was a lot of doors that were shut in my face over the last 6 months. Places your ego takes such a beating. But I think that's what going through NIFW and with Gotham, you learn and have to reframe that your value is not in that job. It's not in the responses that people give you, whether it's shutting the door and not even interviewing you, or not ever getting back to you that you didn't get the job. So I think for me, I have to almost look back to see God's provision, because I can't sit here and tell you I felt it the entire time. But now that you look back over these last 6 months of not worrying about money, being off of work so that I could walk through a very significant time in life with my family and not worry about having to deliver at a job, and being able to honestly rest. I don't think I've rested in a long time. And I think that was, as I look back now, seeing the provision of the money, never having to worry about my bills. Also, one thing that it also did is push me back into community with people. And I think that's also where I started sharing my story more about pain, about really not understanding where all of this was going. And the more I did that community and told my story, then I had people regularly checking back with me. I was never alone. God formed a community around me during this journey so that people constantly ask, how are you doing? How's the job search? So there was regular check-ins of people that I didn't think would remember that I'd told them I was out of work. And so it provided this community. And it also, I think, when you start sharing these journeys of pain, and especially a job loss, because that really hits at the core of a lot of things, is that people start to feel empowered to share their own. And I think it forms that community as well.
Yes.
Of people being understanding that they're not alone in what they're walking. Our journeys of pain and of uncertainty may look different, but being able to create that openness and channel for people to share, I think has probably been, all of those things, the financial support, the community, and also being able to start sharing my story in an open way and understanding how I need to take the story of the last 6 months and use it to help other people.
Yes, thank you for your vulnerability and sharing that season of your career journey. As I think about your story and what you just offered to us, the goodness of the Lord is clearly evident in the way that He showed you and your family kindness in the midst of a season that was also very difficult,
Right.
and freeing you up to spend time with the people you love. Certainly you never would have put yourself in the situation that you found yourself in with your career if it was up to you, but in the kindness of the Lord, He knew that you would need that margin right now, and He's also provided for you in a pretty profound way moving forward. And we'll get there, but I'm really grateful for your willingness to share that hard side of your story, because I know that so many of us find ourselves in that place at one point or another. Thank you. Todd, what did it look like for you to find yourself in a season where there was some shakeup in your career?
Sure.
Your story is different, but equally powerful display of God's presence.
Sure. Well, mine was about 5 years ago, but here in Eli, I'm like, flashback. So many of the same components to that journey. So I would say that, I mentioned my first job and I evolved into healthcare. So really for the first 18 years of my career, I was never laid off. If I changed jobs, which was rare, I had a new job before I left the old job. Well, on this dreary day in May 5 years ago, I was surprisingly let go, and it was a total shock. And so I knew that it would be a challenge, but I had faith that God would work through it. And everyone says, you'll land on your feet, you're going to be great, you know so many people, you live in Nashville, Tennessee. What a healthcare mecca. And so that gave me confidence, but what I found out is through my hard work and diligence, God just wanted to take a little bit more time with me, and His time was not my time. And I found myself metaphorically tapping my watch saying, okay, I'm ready to go. I stayed very busy. I had a lot of activity as far as interviews and meeting with others, but at the end of the day, it took me almost 9 months to find my new position, and that was not my time. So I learned a lot, but it's interesting through that journey in meeting with people and studying the Word. The Bible has a lot of wisdom in regard to a lot of people that are going to work, looking for work, learning how to work, and really trying to work. And I was one of the ones there. I'm trying to work, and I'm doing the work that it takes to gain employment, but it just wasn't happening. So I found that Scripture gave me a lot of what I needed, and others, just good community, which Eli mentioned. And that's ongoing, honestly. I still try my best to stay plugged into people that are either in between, fearful of being in between, or have gone through and in a season of unemployment.
Something that's a real encouragement to me that came out in both of your stories is the value of leaning into community. I think that for so many of us, when we go through difficult things, especially scenarios where we might feel as if there's been a bit of a hit to our ego, I don't know about you, but I can want to kind of hide a little bit and turn inward. And something I really admire about the two of you is how you both reached out to people and you surrounded yourself with others who could lift you up in a time when you needed it. And as a result, God used this to form each of you in your faith in a profound way. And I know that God has used both of you to be an encouragement to others in similar seasons. And that leads to the next question. I want to ask you, are there words of insight that you would share, either on a practical level or maybe a faith lesson? Are there words that you would share with someone who's experiencing job loss or going through a transition right now as an opportunity to encourage them based on how you've experienced God in your own life?
I would say my first suggestion would be is to take an Excel spreadsheet or a journal and document some of your efforts on a daily basis, especially if you're meeting with people. Document who you met with and what you spoke about and the date, because mine took a lot longer than I thought. And here I was, the person that hired me, I met with 6 months before he actually hired me, but he didn't have an opening 6 months before. And so my referencing that, tracking system of who I met with was amazing. God knew I was going to work there, but just not quite yet. So tracking your activity is helpful. And then really another thing is really just, again, being intentional about meeting with people. You need to try and have coffee or lunch at least a few times a week, even if it's people that are not in the area that you want to work in. That really is helpful as far as learning about others' stories, because a lot of other people have gone through the same thing. And it's not like we show up at church or in our community with a sign that says, "I don't have a job, tell me about the time you didn't have a job." But when you meet with somebody, they will open up. And it's like, I've been there before, here's my story, and that just is very helpful.
Todd, the way you built your community and network throughout your season, I think you're well on your way to campaigning for a bid to become the mayor of Nashville at this point. So
yes, I met with quite a few people and lots of great stories, but it's so helpful.
Well, we're in your corner.
Yes, thank you.
Eli, how about you?
Yeah, one of the similar things about our story is that documentation. It really does help you kind of process what you do every day. I approached this as another job, so that my new job now was trying to find a job. And so every day I got up and did something. Can I say that it was exhausting? I won't lie. LinkedIn and I became friends for 3 to 4 hours a day for a long time. But I also gave myself permission to take time off of that and be able to rest. And it drove me back into devotions. Because I can say I'm not the banner child for daily devotion, but it pushed me back almost out of, I would say what God does is, we talk about this all the time, is bring you to your knees. And it was one of those times that I think I probably did need to. You get comfortable when you work and you're successful, and that ego thing plays back in there. So absolutely, I treated it like a job. But I did the same thing as Todd. But I will tell you, mine was a little bit different, as I'm contacting people all over the U.S. because my jobs tend to be remote and cover large parts of the U.S. And my ego to have to reach back out to friends that I'd worked with to ask. That was the hardest thing I've ever done, is to have to ask for their help. And there was another lesson from God, is guess what? As Todd said, he didn't know that the gentleman he met with 6 months before, but being willing and taking that humble approach to asking people for help and being vulnerable. You use that word, being vulnerable, not an easy thing for me. And so that was a beautiful lesson of making sure you did one of those, everybody you've worked with, because you have no idea at the end of the day where that person you worked with a year ago, 6 years ago, might be that person that helps you with that role. But it's also giving yourself grace, because the part of the challenge can be, as you're looking, is as those no's come, your ego starts to go, wait a minute, but I know I was qualified for that. Why? And you start asking that. And I think when you see those scriptures about God's timing and provision, I do think I had to remind myself about that, because there were weeks that I was literally sitting on my couch with no hope. And knowing, though, that if I kept at it and kept, again, in the Word and surrounding myself with my church community and my friend community, you got to see nuggets of hope, and that scripture that said, it is God's timing. And I had to sit back into that. It's almost like an easy chair that you sit back into to find that comfort as you do this every day.
Well, thank you, both of you, for your humility and your openness and sharing your stories. I can see God's faithfulness in a clear way in what you both have shared, and how He worked in your lives and provided for you, because God has gifted you in profound ways to serve His kingdom. But I can also see that as much as there are things that God has wanted to do through you, there are also things that He wanted to do in you, that you could really make an impact in those places where He's called you. And so I'm grateful for the seasons you went through and the difference that has made in the lives of others as a result of your testimonies of faith. So thank you. Just as we close, would you share, what does your work life look like right now? And how's God showing up in the places where He's positioned you today?
Well, my work life started 2 days ago. I'm on day 3 of working for a company to help change, hopefully, the world of dementia, something that I've been impacted by personally. And who knew that that was going to be, after all of the no's and all of the interview sessions, that was going to be the place that He was going to put me. And what a story of redemption. And so for that, I'm just getting to know people, and it's like your first day of school, and starting to make new friends and starting to understand.
But you get to buy new outfits too.
I wish I did. This one I have to stay, now that you sit at your desk and talk to people through a screen. But I think it's an opportunity, again, to, as you talked about, there's a responsibility that all of us have to the gifts that we've been given, as you just talked about, is to give those to others. And if that's, I don't think I mentioned that, but I think understanding that at the end of the day, with this new role and these new coworkers, where is my journey now to give forth to them with what I've been given? And I don't think that's ego. I think that's that, we have been taught a posture of humility and of loving others and being grace-filled. You don't find a lot of grace sometimes in the pharmaceutical industry. It is a very competitive industry. And so while we are improving the lives of patients and changing lives, that message of grace that God implores for us to give and change the workplace. And I think that's for what I'm on day 3 of hopefully doing that. And that's what I did yesterday when I met my team for the first time, is tell them my story. And so that they understood where dementia itself had impacted my story, where a layoff had impacted my story, and how it changed my journey. So I am now, layoffs are hard, but boy, they force a change in your trajectory that just might change your life.
Thank you so much.
I love it. So mine would be that I'm still with the same company. I've been there 5 years since my layoff. I really enjoy it. I help people every day. But I still sometimes say to myself, am I really doing what I was born to do, right? Is this specific company in this segment of what I've chosen? But what's interesting about that is when I met with so many people, I met with over 100 people during my season of unemployment. Some of the most successful people that I met with that are financially well off, and many of them, if you talked long enough, they wondered the same thing. Is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? I'm making money, I'm providing for my family, I'm happy, but is this really what I want to be doing? And I think that questioning, that longing from God is healthy, because we've got an opportunity to do a lot of different things. And even though we're in a specific field, we can still serve and be representative of Jesus and our daily lives. And so I think no matter what your profession is, you can still shine light in a broken world. And I think that's what I'm trying my best to do. But it was refreshing to hear that many others that were not employed were still questioning. And I said, well, that's normal. And so it gave me some insight.
Thank you. It's again, just an amazing testimony to be able to say, I am grateful for the opportunities God has given me to faithfully serve Him, but the journey continues for each
Absolutely.
of us, right?
Yeah.
And I'm so thankful for the two of you and your sharing about God's presence in your lives. I see that He's using you to impact His kingdom in a really meaningful way. So thank you for sharing your faith and work story with the NIFW community. We hope this has been an encouragement to you. If you'd like to get involved with the Nashville Institute for Faith and Work, we encourage you to check out nifw.org.
Thanks, Josiah.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.